Makani, homo yabe mi, nishidane me mewakabni, lidum lily yapemni, dasba ustaba hededi. I am Shelley Covert, and I'm here today representing the Nisenan tribe of the Nevada City Rancheria. And I'm also the executive director of a nonprofit we started called CHIRP, which is the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project. And it is the 501c3 vehicle that we use to get charitable support to the tribe as we seek to have our federal recognition restored. So we were a federally recognized tribe up until 1964. We had a reservation up on Cement Hill just outside of Nevada City, which was sort of the place that became our stronghold as the Indians were moved again and again and again, forcibly removed from their homes during the gold rush and after. So that was our last little stronghold. It became a federally recognized reservation through executive order by President Woodrow Wilson. It was his first executive order when he came into office. And so unfortunately we were terminated in 1964, so we're seeking to have our federal recognition restored. And we've just started a legislative campaign for that to get community support and to get our community behind us, to remind everybody that we're still here. We're very small in numbers, but we have never left our ancestral homelands. So I just wanted to share briefly with you this morning a song in the language. And I grew up being told that our language was extinct, yet my grandma taught me songs and stories and words up until the time she passed away just a few years ago. She was 93. So I would like to sing, not sure which song to sing this morning. The songs are funny. Sometimes I don't think they like to be heard. Sometimes they just obsess in my mind until I sing them. All right. So anyway, I'd like to share this song for you. Please check us out on the internet. There's so much information about the Nisenan people. If you're interested in learning more, you can go to nisenan.org, nisenan.org. And our tribal webpage is there for the Nevada City Rancheria. Our 501c3 webpage is there. And we have a great presence on Facebook now and social media and Twitter. And, well, we're actually not on Twitter, we're on Instagram, right? Instagram, but you can follow what we're doing, join our mailing list, and come out to some of our other events that we have going on throughout the year, especially Nisenan Heritage Day. Solemeriquehanam, 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 solemeriquehanam. Wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim. Yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto. Solemeriquehanam, solemeriquehanam, solemeriquehanam. Solemeriquehanam, wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim, wubum kuyanim. Yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto, yapai toto. Solemeriquehanam, 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 solemeriquehanam. Hui! All right, I can be unpinned now. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for coming, Shelley. It was really important to us.
Thank you. I appreciate being included. Woo, we're stuck together. All right.
Woohoo, that's good. Thank you, Shelley. How many of you have been with us before? Yoo-hoo! And how many of you it's your first time? We so welcome you. We're so glad you're here. We want to tell you a little bit about our mission. And we started out as a group of farmers who wanted to educate other farmers. Our mission is to stimulate and motivate members in our community to become active in our local food and farm communities, to educate members in our community through internationally recognized dynamic speakers, to foster a sense of community within our local food and farming movement, and to bring greater awareness and support to our local food and farming movement. And how many of you are farmers? How many of you are homesteaders? How about gardeners? If you've ever wanted to farm, this is the time we need you right now. I want to tell you a little bit about our sponsors, because our sponsors make it happen. Our top tier sponsors this year are Vital Garden Supply and Briar Patch Food Co-op. Our second level down is Peaceful Valley, Organic Valley, Forever Flowering Greenhouses, KVMR, and Ubinet, the voice of the Sierras. Our third layer down is Johnny's Select Seeds, Natiba, and UNFI, which started here as Mountain People years ago. So I want to show you a little bit about our top sponsors. Brian and Pedma, are you here? I guess they're not here yet, but they are 3-generation family business, organic certified science, based grow supplies, compost and biologically correct ingredients. And they've got so much information on their website, vitallandscaping.com. Thank you so much, Brian and Pedma. Next down is co-op members. How many of you are our Briar Patch co-op members? Yes, we own the co-op. Have you ever thought of growing for Briar Patch? Yes. Here we go. Page up. Down there.
I'd say the number one thing that we do with farms is we plan. We coordinate with them so that we maximize their access to our market.
There have been two big things that the Briar Patch does that's really helped our business. The first is their planning process. The 6-month planning process that they go through allows us to know that we're going to have a market for the food we grow, and it really gives us the courage and stability to grow our business with them, with both the produce department and the deli department.
It gives farmer the opportunity to decide what kind of produce they want to grow for that season.
Working with Briar Patch has helped our farm become more profitable since we're better able to grow a very specific amount of a crop. We know we have a guaranteed market for selling that crop.
The second thing that they've done that's really helped us out is their organic certification loans. For certified organic farms, they'll give a loan up front for certification costs, and over the season we pay that off.
And then we also work with a nonprofit organization called California Farm Link. They specialize in infrastructure and operational loans to farms.
Briar Patch did help us with the loan that we got through FarmLink because Briar Patch was sponsoring us and we could show a specific number of commitments that helped a lot with getting a loan.
Briar Patch has transformed our farm into being just a simple little farm for our family into a production that provides for the consumer. I'm picking my bunches of cilantro, my bunches of kale, and saying, you know, what a job this is. I have, you know, nature all around me, the most peaceful environment that I could ask for, and
Our next, oh, thank you, Briar Patch member owners. It's our store. Next up is Peaceful Valley, and we really thank Peaceful Valley. Peaceful Valley does so much for us, including provide the plants here for our decor, and Carol Turner for arranging them.
For over 40 years, Peaceful Valley Farm and Garden Supply has led the way in providing affordable and quality products for the organic farmer and gardener. And unlike most garden supply companies, we're committed to providing only natural and organic products. You'll never see any glyphosates or GMOs on our shelves. As a CCOF certified organic handler, We are selective in the quality and safety of what we carry. When we first started in 1976, our goal was to provide everything an organic garden or farm would need, from compost and soil amendments to pest control and tools, both the basics and the hard-to-find items. And we have stayed true to that goal. Year after year, we now carry over 5,000 products at groworganic.com and in our store. Here you can find everything you need to start your seeds, care for your garden year-round, cook up or preserve your homegrown veggies, and more. Our products are tested by staff members to make sure that they live up to our high standards. We've also developed our own Peaceful Valley brand of certified organic fertilizers, amendments, and seeds to provide a high-quality and affordable option for your gardening needs. All of our seeds are packed on a unique and antique seed packaging machine, which packs our almost 400 varieties of herb and vegetables at 60 packets a minute. From heirloom apples to unique Zeiger blueberries, we have one of the biggest selections of bare root trees and berries on the West Coast, with over 250 varieties to choose from. For our local customers, we also sell organic veggies and herbs for transplanting and a wide variety of landscaping plants, including natives, water-wise, and deer-resistant choices. It's not just our vast selection of great products that keeps customers coming back, though. Our knowledgeable and dedicated staff makes shopping here a great experience, whether you shop online, by phone, or in the store. Our garden-savvy employees are ready to help you with your purchases. In fact, helping you learn more about growing organically is one of the most important aspects of our company. Our online resource center contains articles on nearly every gardening topic you could think of, and our over 240 YouTube videos have had more than 10 million views. We can answer a lot of questions. We're happy and proud to support our community and our customers as we all grow organic for life.
Thank you, Patty. We so appreciate your generosity. And all of our conference sponsors and exhibitors, we so appreciate you because you guys make it happen. So you have a program, and hopefully you've looked through it. You see there's a map in there. And I just want to point out right now where the restrooms are on your map, those little people, okay? And if you get lost here on this campus or you're not sure exactly what to do, go to the main hall. The main hall is where all the happenings are, where it's in red right here. By the way, there's no smoking allowed on the school premises. And remember, this is a high school. There is Wi-Fi, but they throw you off after an hour, and they don't allow Facebook because it is a high school. All right, did everybody get their passport? The passports are set up as a way to have you go visit the vendors, and at the same time, we've got some fabulous prizes for you. And so we have 32 exhibitors. You have to visit 20 and get them to stamp it. Take a look at the prizes for the raffles. They're really good. Fill out the front. Return by today at 2:45 p.m. We'll remind you to do it. And then we'll do the drawings, and we'll post the winners on the board, and you can claim through tomorrow afternoon. Here's today's schedule. We're doing the intro now, and then our first speaker is going to come up, Doniga Markegard. Then we will do the Food and Farm Expo, where you can go around and look at all those, get your passport stamped. And then we're going to have lunch, and you could also do the Food and Farm Expo. Then we're going to do Drew Rivers and Paul Mueller, who we're really looking forward to too. And we have lunch after that, Food and Farm Expo. And then in the afternoon is Jeff Lowenfels, another expo. And then we break out into more detailed talks. And I'll remind you as we get closer to that time where those talks are. Now, we have an evaluation, and we will send it to you by email. If you don't do email, let us know. Because believe it or not, we read every single evaluation. We talk about your suggestions. And this was a suggestion, what was it, like 3 years ago? Yeah, about 3 years ago, somebody said, I had so much fun, but I wanted to go have a beer, or I think it was a glass of wine, with people. Could you make that happen? And we were like, oh my God, we got to do that too. But we figured it out last year. And this year, we're doing it again. And you go to Old Republic, the one here in Nevada City, or anytime 5 to 7:30. And drink a beer, glass of wine, network, make some new friends. We'll have someone there to help you network. It's only a 5-minute drive. How many of you are from out of the county? For you, go up onto Ridge Road, right? There's a stop sign right here. Head down to the next stop sign, make a left, make a right, and it's on the left. All right, so right, left, right. And it's a really, you'll know you're at the right place because it's a really oddball intersection where you make that last left. It is square dancing, believe it or not. It's a very interesting place. Tomorrow's our local networking day, and I'll tell you more about this later, but we have 20 regional workshops. We'll also have, our topics are a wide variety of food, farm, gardening, ranching, fire safe. These are 5 tracks over 4 time periods. And you even asked for more networking. So today at lunch, you're gonna hear Malika is gonna ask who would like to have a round table. And you go to her and she's gonna explain how it works. Anybody could suggest one. A round table for Sunday, anybody. We only have one criteria, and that is if you're gonna suggest a round table topic, you better be here tomorrow. Okay, don't make everybody else go to your round table that you didn't even show up to do. All right, Briar Patch Co-op is here today. Breakfast, coffee, snacks. Lunch for those who didn't pre-register in time by our deadline for food. Let's see, they told me for those of you that don't get our lunch, which today is a really tasty shepherd's pie, yum, yum, yum. They're gonna have vegan and meat lasagna. And then we're gonna have a conference wind-up, which is kind of also networking, at the end of all the workshops tomorrow as a way to bring ourselves out into the world after this wonderful weekend. We'll have a short video clip, and we'll talk about ideas of how to make our dreams come true, because why shouldn't we have our dreams come true? All right, I would like to introduce to you a board member from the Briar Patch Co-op who is also speaking tomorrow on post-harvest co-benefits, quality and food safety with farmer Diane Bollinger. And I'd like to ask you to welcome Kelly Feierheisel. Did I say it right? I did. We're switching. You're doing that. Okay.
There we go. All right. Good morning, everyone. That's not me. That's my colleague, Sarah Tiffany from Community Alliance with Family Farmers, or CAF. She does climate smart farming, so that's her. But I'm here today representing Briar Patch. I'm on the board of directors of Briar Patch, and just here to introduce our first keynote speaker. So Briar Patch has been, as we saw in the video, a proud supporter of Sierra Harvest and the various programs in this conference since the inception. And our goal at Briar Patch as a community-owned organic food co-op is to provide an easy way for our community's talented farmers, ranchers, and producers to reach customers in an increasingly complex and competitive market. We also work tirelessly to support the development of a robust and thriving sustainable agricultural sector in Nevada County and beyond. To that end, I'm extremely excited today to be here to introduce our first keynote speaker, Doniga Markegard. Doniga owns and operates Markegard Family Grass-Fed Beef, or Grass-Fed. The ranch is comprised of over 8,000 acres across the Bay Area. They raise grass-fed beef, lamb, pastured pork, as well as dairy and other value-added products. The ranch has been widely recognized for its practices, which include rotational grazing, catchment, and carbon farming. She hosts numerous educational workshops on her land and works to spread knowledge of holistic practices and thoughtful land stewardship. She comes to ranching with a background in conservation and permaculture. In addition to being a successful rancher, she has been a successful advocate for sustainability in agriculture. She's an accomplished wildlife tracker and is passionate about working to help heal our land through her work. She recently published a book titled Dawn Again, Tracking the Wisdom of the Wild. We are very excited to have her here at the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference. Please join me in a warm welcome of Doniga.
Thank you. How do I sound? Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for coming. My name is Doniga, and I am coming from the Coastal Terrace Prairie in the California, San Francisco Bay Area. So we lease rangeland both north and south of San Francisco, spanning about 10,000 acres. And I am very humbled this morning by the opening from Shelley. And I see that our land stewardship could not be possible without the thousands and thousands of years of stewardship from the indigenous peoples that were here before us. And so we all need to honor that and give thanks for the land and all of these life forms that are here, because people really cared. And people cared so much because they relied on that for their survival. They relied on the grasslands to be healthy for their food source. They relied on the oak savannas to give a good crop so that they could make it through the winter. So I'd like us all to shift our thinking this morning and say, what if our survival relied on us tending to the wild? Not taming the wild, but tending to the wild. So this is my family, and we have grass-fed beef, and these are the belted Galloway cattle that we raise. They're a heritage breed out of Scotland, and the coastal terrace prairies where we ranch are the most biodiverse grasslands in the whole nation. So on one of our ranches alone, there's 157 species of plants, and not a single one of those did we seed or plant. And it's that biodiversity above ground that really leads to the biodiversity below ground and helps that exchange of nutrients, of minerals into the grass plants and into the forage to provide that nutrition that the cattle need to sustain themselves throughout the year. So we have just shy of 1,000 head of cattle, and we bunch them up and we look towards nature. My background is in wildlife tracking, and the very, very first thing of a regenerative farmer or rancher that I suggest to do is go out and get knowledge of place. Get to know your environment, get to know your ecosystem, get to know how the water flows and how the minerals exchange in the soil and into the plants. Get to know the weather, observe through the seasons, get to know all of the plants and which ones really thrive and mimic those conditions in your agriculture. So when we're moving the cattle through the rangeland, it's as if we are looking at this predator-prey relationship. So just as the lion moves the wildebeest, we utilize our creativity and our grazing planning to keep the herd bunched up, allowing them to graze the pasture enough to create more vigor in the plants, and then move them on to the next patch. And going back to that indigenous knowledge, one of the things that we resonate with is something called kin-centric ecology. And essentially, how are humans an integral part of the larger complexity of life? So really putting ourselves into that complexity and tending the wild and viewing all other species as our kin. So treating that life with so much reverence and reciprocity going into the future and considering the future generations. So this is one of the plants that we really strive to create good conditions for. It's the California oatgrass. It's a native perennial bunch grass. And I'll share some data with you, but one of the ranches, the vegetation studies have come back, and there's a 10% cover on that ranch of this plant, which is really a big deal, because this plant doesn't thrive if the ground has been plowed up. It doesn't thrive with overgrazing. It thrives with this regenerative, holistic grazing, where the animals come in and they eat off the plant before it gets to its death cycle, and it perpetuates that vigor. So in the life cycle of a grass plant, there's birth, growth, death, and decay. And the cattle come in where during that growth curve, and they graze that plant, and the decay happens in the rumen. So they're really aiding that decay cycle, just like the large herds of elk and pronghorn that we had, and large herds of bison that we had in North America's grasslands. They were integral to this health of the soil and health of the prairie. And those root systems, I mean, that is just so incredible. Now, the golden rolling hills of California are a new term. They used to stay green year round. And so this plant right here is what aids our goal of having green growing plants 365 days a year. Because even in the drought, the 5 years of drought, we would still go out there in the driest time of year. There's no irrigation on any of our rangeland, and we'd still see green. And those were the patches we'd save so that our cattle could make it through during those drought times. So understand your environment. Know these types of plants that, this is your survival. If you're counting on the nature for your survival, which you should be, and in agriculture, we're truly working with the land so that we can feed our family. That's for our family, 100% of our income comes from the products that we sell to our customers in the Bay Area. So we are depending on this plant thriving. And what we see when those plants do thrive is holistically managed land. More carbon is getting sucked out of the atmosphere versus conventionally managed land, where there might be bare soil or larger patches between the grass plants, and that carbon is being released. And this is a fence line image of another patch of perennial bunch grass. This is the purple needlegrass, a different native perennial. And so on the for you guys to be the left side of the picture. That's where we graze our animals, and with a thriving bunchgrass population. And on the other side of the fence, you see where the soil, it's almost as if the soil has shrunk. And the rocks are starting to be exposed. So that's where it's continually grazed. So the rancher has a perimeter fence, has a set amount of animals that they put out on that field, and they don't move. So movement is going to be our key word. We're moving, and that is so key to think about everything. How we move our bodies, how we move our animals, what kinds of movement do we outsource? And what is that outsourced movement? What is that creating on the planet? All right, child labor, really poor, toxic conditions, and that's all for our own personal extraction, because we're part of that. How is that movement being outsourced, and how can we take back that movement? How can we move with nature and move to procure our food and our fiber and all of the things that we do that also give us a healthy, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically well-being? So this is us moving the herd of cattle on horseback. And we use, we're on foot, we're on horseback, or we're on a UTV. And you can see where the cattle had come from. There's still a lot of green, there's still a lot of grass. And so essentially the cattle were in that field, they were mobbing up, they were munching the grass, they were mulching the grass with their feet. And then that in turn, with their manure, gives tons of microbes to the soil, which feeds the mycelial network, and then we move them on to the next pasture to create that cycle again. And what are the benefits of this? Why do we do this, other than we love to be out there with our kids on horseback, moving the herd and checking the calves, and it's sort of one of the best things that, that's what we do on a Sunday. So why do we do that? What are the benefits of that? So here's just a few things that came back from a coalition that we're part of, a science group called Point Blue Conservation Science. And they have a rangeland monitoring network, and I believe they're up in this area as well. So they monitor rangeland all over California for vegetation, for birds. They've more recently really have been working on climate change, so they're doing robust soil studies over time. So what do we see? On this ranch alone in Pescadero, which is the whole ranch is about 7,000 acres. The area that we lease is roughly 3,000 acres. To the west of us, in between the ocean and our leased ground, is an area that hasn't been grazed in probably about 25 years. Too many barriers. Conventional ag is not wanting any cattle near their Brussels sprout crop. There's no fencing, it's right on a highway, so there's too many barriers to graze that patch. To the north is land that's conventionally grazed. So all these patches were tested. The areas that we holistically graze, the areas that are just have rest, they don't have the disturbance of the hoof and the ruminants, and then an area where the rancher set stocks, just puts a certain number of animals out, has a perimeter fence, and those animals are free to go where they want and pick and choose what they want. So you can see our ranch that we lease has 32% perennial grass cover, which is huge. The region average is 18%, and it's really those perennials that we'll see that's the solution to pulling down large amounts of carbon. Our shallow carbon increased by 3%, while our deep carbon increased by 7%, and that's a 3-year period. And the region average is negative 7%. So the carbon was actually emitted from the region's soils. So there's still a long way to go there. Some of the points on this ranch had as much of a 35% increase in deep carbon over 3 years. And what else do we see? We see improved grazing can sequester 5.1 megagrams of CO2 equivalent annually. So these are starting to be measured as the only solution of this climate crisis that we're in, is to store that carbon where it belongs in the soil. How can we draw that carbon down? And livestock, animals are integral to that. I think somebody said, use meat to grow your vegetables. So integrate the animals into your crops to bring back that fertility, to bring back those cycles, that carbon cycle, to grow really incredibly mineral-rich, nutrient-dense foods. And this is some of the data. So you can see this, I don't know what the pointer is, but this area here In the blue is our leased land, where it shows a sequestering of carbon. The area along the coast there is showing the carbon being emitted, as well as the area to the north that's conventionally grazed did not show a increase in carbon. And why is this so important? And because if we look globally at our agricultural soils, if there was a 4% increase in all the agricultural soils, we would sequester the equal amount of carbon that is emitted annually. So that's a huge number, and there's an initiative that the previous French Minister of Agriculture, Stéphane Le Foll, started, which is the 4 per 1,000 initiative, and you all can look it up online. And California, just this last fall at the Climate Summit in San Francisco, California signed on to that initiative. And it's our governor's personal passion is soil health, which is great. We have such a good opportunity and so much backing us up here in California. So we signed on to this initiative. What does that mean? It's voluntary, but it's a global initiative to say, hey, how can we drastically shift our agriculture practices to make a path forward that actually can give us hope? And look into this, and essentially what it says is you never leave bare soil. Diversity is key. Look at how you can improve hedgerows, agroforestry, improve your pasture management, integrate animals, restore land in the arid and semi-arid regions of the world. And essentially stop desertification. It's desertification is a product of our agriculture system, and we're seeing it, I'm sure, more and more in the Central Valley, that land is just the water is being pulled away, and it will be fallow. So what's the only thing that can be produced on that land? Is animals. We need to bring the animals back to restore that land into balance so it can again grow food. Improve the water infiltration. With a 1% increase of soil organic matter per acre of land holds 20,000 gallons more of water. So our water storage in the soil is very key. Utilize every single drop of rain that falls and don't let it wash away. Keep it where it falls. So this is one of the ranches that we started leasing about 5 years ago. It hadn't been grazed in 15 years. It was very low diversity, maybe one or two species of plants in this particular field. And we have our goals and for our operation, which is we want green living plants 365 days a year. So that wasn't the case in this ranch that hadn't been grazed. We want diversity above and below ground. We without the use of chemicals, and we want to increase the mycorrhizal networks, integration of animals, and aiming for healthy soils. So what do? We bring in the ultimate biological farming unit that mows and mulch and has a great carbon converter, fermentation vat, fertilizes out the back end, and has huge horsepower. And you're not sitting on top of a machine breathing diesel exhaust. It's completely solar powered. So what do? We go in and we move with the animals. We get them in there, trampling all of that forage that was not adding to the carbon sequestration whatsoever. It was oxidizing, so adding to the problem. And so we come in with the animals. They can start to utilize that forage with a lot of extra minerals, because the thing is, when the plants have not been grazed for a long time, the nutrition just goes down. And so you want to make sure your herd health is good. And so that sometimes takes supplementing with minerals, alfalfa, whatever it takes to get that rumen to be able to digest all that lignin. And these are also similar to the principles of holistic management, which I'm trained in holistic management, and you can look into this more, but nature functions in wholes. Understand the environment you're managing. Before you start to put your own human patterns onto the land, understand what the land is speaking. Define and know what you're managing, know what sort of resources you have at hand, get creative, state what you want, develop a holistic context that you write out and you paste on the wall, and you test your decisions on that holistic context, which is basically what type of quality of life do you want, and what really helps you to thrive and gets you passionate and makes you happy. So that's the first thing of your holistic context. What forms of production do you need to produce to have that quality of life? So looking at what is it that's going to give you more love in your life, that's going to have a healthy family that has access to good food and is always on the move and not sedentary. What is it that you can create to help your community? And then the third thing is your future resource base. Essentially, your legacy. What is it that you want, or your family, or your business, or your co-op wants to leave behind for the future generations? Didn't quite go through all of them. So that's state what you want. Aim for healthy soils. Consider all the tools. And the tools that we utilize the most are human creativity and biology. So living organisms are the tools that we utilize, because you can't mimic the function of a root system or a ruminant animal. So utilizing nature as your number one resource. Test your decisions. Assume that you're wrong, especially when you're working with nature. It's very, very complex. And observe everything and monitor results. And you're constantly in this feedback loop of planning, monitoring, controlling, and replanning. It's this constant feedback loop. So what is it, this quality of life? In your life, how is your farming or ranching or homesteading really leading to that quality of life? For us, our holistic context is to steward grasslands by mimicking natural systems through regenerative agriculture practices. And we do this by keeping the home fire burning with strong family values of love and care for each other and the earth, and to make a big impact for the future generations by influencing large-scale restoration of the watersheds and the grasslands within them, while producing nutrient-dense food for thousands of families. So, thank you. And for us, that did mean scaling up and getting to economy of scale. And it did mean diversifying. So we started out with just cattle. My husband is a 6th-generation cattle rancher, and he had a cow-calf operation. I was telling the high schoolers yesterday, he raised buck and bulls to, try to be cool with them. And then we transitioned into 100% grass-fed direct market, because we looked at, hey, we love being out there, we love being with the animals, but how can we be part of agriculture and pull out of the industrial system, right? It's not easy. And there's no blame or shame that any farmer should be putting on another farmer, because the industrial ag it's so easy just to kind of be a piece of the puzzle and fit in and specialize. And it's so difficult to step out of that and take on the whole puzzle to actually put food on the table and make ends meet and make it work. It's a big struggle. But it's possible, and with the right, and we have so much, there's so much support out there. And through the years, we just keep finding more and more organizations that are saying, hey, how can I help? I make the joke that there's more, nonprofit people working in the nonprofit sector there to help sustainable farmers and ranchers than there are farmers and ranchers doing that. So, which is great, but there's a lot of assistance out there for beginning farmers, and Sierra Harvest is doing a great job with all of that. So with our health, we look at our health is directly linked to soil health. You look at the layer of our skin is so similar to the layer of the skin of planet Earth. And our parents are directly related to our genes and our health, and the parents of the soil, the rock that they came from, is directly related to their DNA. Our environment, what we're exposed to is directly related to our health. The same with the soil. What the soil is exposed to is directly related to the soil health. And then the action that we're going to take. Are we going to choose to have a diet of potato chips and Coca-Cola? How's that going to make us feel? Are we going to choose to promote agriculture that's depleting the soil and applying chemicals and fertilizers? Or are we going to choose a regenerative agriculture that directly links that soil health to our health? And Dr. Daphne Miller is doing great work with this linking soil health with human health, and how can we increase that diversity of our gut microbiome to reduce the risks of these inflammatory diseases. And right now 40% of humans are going to be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So this is something we really need to look at, and we really need to look at mental health as well, because the average is up to 9 hours a day in teenagers of screen time. And that's directly linked to the rate of suicide, and depression is directly linked to the rise of screen time and the non-screen activities going down. So that sedentary lifestyle is leading to this sickness. So keep those kids moving, and keep them out there building fence and working hard. We raise grass-fed sheep, lamb, and maybe in about April, they will leave our home ranch and they'll go and do the work on an organic diversified farm, Blue House Farm, that's just down the road. And so that farm sees that he took about 75 acres of land that was farmed conventionally in Brussels sprouts and leeks, and the farmer walked away from it and said, okay, I'm done with this patch of land. It's not producing anymore. Blaming the land, right? Oh, it's no good. The soil's compacted. It's not producing a crop. So he walked away. The land came up for being available. The organic farmer came in and said, gosh, yeah, I do have an issue here. I really need to take this time when I'm transitioning it to organic to build back the fertility of the soil, so that I can sell my diversified crops at farmers market and have all of those great minerals that I have on the other land that I've been farming on. So he called us up and said, hey, can you bring your sheep in? I'll plant the cover crop. This one's Sudan grass, which is amazing. It just shoots way up, and you have all of that great forage that the sheep utilize, and then they just, goes right through them and out the other end in the form of fertilizer. So he's done a lot of different cover crops he's experimented with over I think this is going to be our 4th year, bringing our flock of sheep to his farm. And then, he'll plant it in a cash crop like strawberries. And, he has a lot of different crops that he has planted after the sheep come in. So that's great. It's not always possible if you have larger contracts and buyers. I'm sure, Drew and Paul will be better able to answer those types of questions. But for this farmer, he's selling to restaurants, CSA. He has a few larger accounts, but he has a sensible food security plan, and it involves animals. We have pigs. So adding pigs and chickens to our larger beef operation was really what made it possible for me to be part-time on the farm to full-time on the farm. Cattle are what we look at as a very long-term investment. You have these assets that are walking around, these solar-powered assets, and you're drawing interest from those assets in the form of their offspring. Because it takes so long for a grass-fed steer, a heritage breed, to finish, 30 months. So that's a big turnover in profit and a big investment in the mom and the offspring, 3 years of offspring essentially that you're supporting for one animal. So you're counting on that one steer to support 3 other animals. So, but again, it's an investment. The cattle were the way that we could show the Farm Service Agency that we have what they call chattel, which is we don't own our own house. But because we have a large herd of cattle, we were able to get a land loan from the Farm Service Agency against our cattle and purchase one of the small farms that we raise our hogs on. So your cattle are great, but if you're just getting involved in this, you might want to start with chickens and pigs and then look at cattle as a long-term investment, not something that you're going to get a profit on the first year or second year or third year. So we raise pigs. These are red wattles. And we raise them in the areas that aren't the prime pasture land, but the brushy areas, the forested areas. This is the property that we bought. It's 11 acres in Pescadero. It was very heavily wooded, just prime for an out-of-control wildfire to come through. And we know that it's not a matter of if, but when. So what did we do? We looked at, okay, where do we want this land to be? We want to encourage the oak trees. And we want to tend the oak trees as if we need them for our survival, because we do. And that oak savanna is what can create when a wildfire comes through, it can be a gentle wildfire. So we brought the pigs in, and they grazed all of the understory. I mean, just consumed the poison oak, consumed the blackberries, and all those fire ladders, were all being converted in to really, really tasty bacon. And then we went in, once they cleared some of the underbrush, and looked at all of the sick and diseased trees, which there was a lot of them. So we've been doing extensive thinning of mainly the Douglas fir trees and promoting the oak trees, because the oak trees were all shaded. And we want those acorns because, again, that's free food for our animals that the pigs just love those acorns. And we love them too. We raise chickens. We raise close to 200 hogs, maybe 100. This year it'll be about 200 hogs, finish. We also farrow and have piglets. We raise about 5,000 chickens a year, Freedom Ranger chickens. They're the kinds of chickens that can actually walk. And because all the meat birds that you buy at Whole Foods or wherever, they're all one breed, Cornish cross, you know, those sort of plumped up chickens that kind of waddle around. So when we were going into pastured poultry, that's mostly what I saw. And I said, I don't want anything to do with that. I don't want anything to do with a chicken that can't act like a chicken. So then we found through accident, actually, this breed of chicken showed up at our local post office. It was supposed to be shipped to Montana. And the postmaster called and said, hey, these chickens are here and nobody wants them. They're just gonna die. So 250 Freedom Ranger chickens, and my husband and I were away at a conference and we called our ranch hand and said, hey, do you want to raise chickens? And she said, sure. So she's actually part owner in the chickens, and you know, that's a way that she can build her agriculture business alongside ours. So these finish in about 9 to 10 weeks, depending on the size of bird you want. They thrive out on pasture. Up until this year, we do seasonal production, but we took them through the winter this year because we just had our demand, it just keeps growing and growing, and we're really just trying to pump up our production. We may not raise them through the winter. Last year, it's tough to raise them when it's wet. You got to move the shelters constantly, and they're really susceptible. We had to build sort of these special barricades, so we lock them in at night, when before they would just go in those like green shelters on their own. Now we have to actually lock them in there in the winter. We sell meat online. It's all pre-ordered and picked up. We don't ship. We do lots of farmers markets in the Bay Area. We have some of the greatest farmers markets. I'm sure for you guys it would be, you know, Sacramento, going to those hubs where people are really looking for this product. And like I said, there's just such a huge demand for grass-fed and pasture-raised meats that are raised humanely with a lot of care, and you know, looking at the environment as a factor in your decision making. We do a lot of ranch days. We bring people out and teach them about where their food comes from, so they as well can have that deep connection to their food. And then we look at the types of agriculture that we're representing here at this conference. And you know, it's really amazing to see that the 70% globally of the world's food comes from smallholder farms. You know, and we went to Tierra Madre in Italy a couple years ago, and it was the peasant farmers that were showing up. And it's those small farms, the diversified farms, that are producing the food and also utilizing only 20% of their natural resources, where industrial farming is only producing 30% of the food while using 80% of the natural resources. And the same with varieties produced. You know, industrial farming globally is only producing 80,000 varieties, when smallholder farms are over 2 million. You know, there's more women farmers. There's basically, everybody needs to take part in being responsible, whether it's your backyard garden, sourcing from your local farmer's market. You know, that's the only way we can really make this work. And and again, we're looking how we can tend to the wild, not tame the wild. And the book that I wrote, Dawn, again, Tracking the Wisdom of the Wild, it's available at the bookstore. And it looks at how can we learn directly from nature. And I was approached to write the book from a publisher that said, you know, there's not women writing books about their time immersed in the wilderness and surviving and learning tracking. So can you please write this book, because I'm looking at raising my children in this way, and I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, because I don't know of anyone who has been through that sort of education and hasn't just sort of completely disregarded society and walked out and is living in the woods completely disconnected. I want them to be integrated. So, you know, she said that then, you know, see how you can utilize that direct knowledge from nature and bring that into a career, bring that into your life. So the book is about a lot about my adventure stories and times tracking large predators. You know, spent 7 summers following wolves in Idaho and learning directly from them. You know, that's how I learned that predator-prey relationship. That wolves come in to where the elk herds are grazing in a meadow. You know, they take down a bull elk, and the herd scatters and goes on to the next meadow, and that sort of dance of predator, prey, grasslands continues. And so to learn that sort of directly from the grasslands and directly from the elk. And there's stories of that hopelessness, right? Because I'm sure we've all been there. We've all had a time where, you know, we turn on the news and there's that feeling of hopelessness. But I have kids. That's hopelessness is not a choice. And we really need to look at all of the indigenous knowledge and bring that into the conservation movement, because it's largely been separate. And the conservation movement, we lease from a lot of land trusts and public agencies, need to look at, hey, yeah, they want to increase biodiversity and native plants, but look at, there's 22% of the Earth's land surface is still indigenous territories. And 80% of the biodiversity on that planet, on this planet, is on that 22% of land. So that's something we all need to look at. And so my book talks about learning directly from indigenous elders. And because that learning your environment is like kindergarten for Native peoples. You know, we need to bring our kids into this type of education so that we can immerse them into the alternative of screen time for their future. Am I at time? 10 minutes. Okay. Can we take questions? I didn't think there was a time for questions, but yeah, how about, and I can repeat them so it's recorded. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your belted cattle, and it looked like they were Dorper sheep.
Yeah, so our belted Galloway cattle, when my husband primarily had Angus cattle because that's what sells good at the livestock market. And we had a neighbor on one of our ranches in Bodega Bay, and they had a little small herd of belted Galloways, and the bull jumped in with our Angus cows, and and the rest is history. So there was like, oh wow, that came out pretty good. So, but we primarily belted Galloway. There is some Angus still in the mix. We have a closed herd. They do really well on the coastal grasslands. They have a double hair coat. So the fat also marbles in the meat instead of just staying on the outside. Exceptional, and they like we'll get a ranch, like maybe the rancher messed up or the relationships weren't great with the rancher and the landowner. So we'll get a new ranch that had been grazed sort of conventionally, and the landowners say, oh my gosh, I've never seen cattle up on that hillside actually foraging, or I've never seen cattle grazing that plant before, and this invasive plant that they've been trying to get rid of. So they have an incredibly diverse palate.
So is that kind of similar to Scottish Highland?
Yeah, exactly. Very, very similar. Yeah. And again, look at your environment. So they're not going to do well in every environment. So look at your environment and say, okay, what heritage breed came from an environment similar to mine, and how am I going to have that animal thrive? And the animals that, the offspring that's born and raised on your ranch, they're going to be the best ones that will be the best mothers. So trying to keep as much of a closed herd as possible. Yeah.
Do you do natural breeding rather than insemination, and not just for the cattle, but for all of the critters?
Yeah, oh, and the next question was sheep, sorry, and then I'll get back to that. So our sheep are all hair sheep. So we have Katahdins, we started out with Katahdins and St. Croix, and we had a really nice St. Croix ram. And then we introduced some Dorpers in there, and love the mix, especially the colors that come out when you mix the Dorpers and the Katahdins. We even had like some Belty lambs born this year. So your question,
natural breeding or insemination, and not just the cattle, but all of the critters.
Yeah, so the cattle, basically whether it's an elk herd or a cow herd, you need about 1 male for 25 females, and we'd probably be a lot better as a species if we abided by that rule as well. So it's all natural. It's all out pasture breeding. We have, because our market is year round. Our ranches in one region calve out in the spring, and another region they calve out in the fall, so that we can finish our animals throughout the year. Oh, okay, great. So then our chickens, we get them as day-old chicks. There's not very many hatcheries that raise these Freedom Rangers, so we get them all the way from Pennsylvania. Our sheep, natural breeding, the rams out with the ewes. Our pigs, we have a boar in with maybe 8 sows, and so we try to stagger those breedings as well. Pigs are pretty amazing because the gestation is 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days. It's pretty quick. And it takes 7 months to finish a pig to where you're getting bacon and pork chops. And I think that was it. Yeah. You wanna, or if there's a few more questions, if we can go a few more minutes, maybe you could just stand out so that it's easier to get to.
First, I just wanted to say this is so important what you're doing. I think cattle often get vilified as part of the problem with climate change, and they really can be a solution. So it's great that you're spreading the word about this. I was wondering. You had mentioned you grazed 10,000 acres and with 1,000 cattle, and I wonder if there could be more density there, and if you've experimented with that and what you think about that.
Well, our limiting factor is water. So we can expand or we can reduce. We need to stay flexible, but the average in our region is 10 to 15 acres per animal unit. So that's like cow, calf. It's probably different in this region. That's non-irrigated. So you're looking at keeping those animals through that 8 months of dry without irrigation. And we've always had lots of forage left. So we could increase our numbers, but we haven't had good year-round water supplies. That's been the main issue. Yeah, so we work with NRCS, the EQIP conservation grants to move water around because water infrastructure is very expensive. My husband used to dig a lot of ponds, but it's pretty much, you know, close to impossible to be able to afford to build ponds anymore with all the permitting that needs to happen. So,
Doniga, did you want to take questions till the end of your session?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Seems like there's a lot of questions.
So beautiful, thank you. In some research I read talked about the tall prairie grasses, the bunch grasses with the deep roots, also are deep seeded, so that they need the heavy ruminants like the buffalo and the cattle to restore them, to bring them back. They need the heavy, the hooves to go deeper.
Yeah, essentially areas that you do find those bunch grasses where there isn't grazing, they're starting to die off to where, you know, you find, you know, one here or you know, maybe a mile down the road you find another one. But we have pastures like on that ranch with that data where it's just solid bunch grasses. It's incredible. And that land has never been tilled. So that's a big factor too. Some of our ranches, they were really over-farmed during World War II, and we have a much less, you know, percentage of those bunch grasses. So, yeah.
I'm wondering how you feel and how you deal with horses being a part of sustaining or not sustaining the soil. My boyfriend is always getting on me for my horses ruining the soil. So I'm curious if and, you know, how much you let your horses out, how much land per horse, what you think about that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's sort of a common misconception that horses are damaging to the land, and people say that about sheep too because of their grazing patterns. But with horses, we run them just like the cattle, and we run them with the herd. You know, our horses are all ranch horses, and you know, my husband's family comes from a long line of horse trainers, and so they're really integral. But we've had to have some really tough decisions and arguments with landowners about horses, and they've really, I mean, they have been successful at limiting the number of horses that we can graze with our cattle, and we've definitely pushed back quite a bit, but we don't see, when we move them with the cattle and allow those pastures to restore, then we don't see the negative impacts. It's, you know, use the same principles. If you have maybe even just an acre of pasture that you let your horses out, you know, cross fence that into 4 pastures so that you're moving them, you know, you're keeping them together in one pasture and then moving them as a unit, which can be tricky if you have, you know, mares that don't get along with anybody else. But so, you know, that would be my suggestion, is they aren't inherently bad. It's just how you manage them. Yeah. You already asked a question. Anybody else here? I can talk to you later.
I have a question about the percentage of public lands versus private lands that you're on. I know you're on some land trust properties, but are you on actual public land also?
Yes. So we, our San Mateo County ranches are regional park. The one that had the study done is a land trust, but that will be transitioning into the same regional park. Regional parks are government's really tricky to lease from. I'd much prefer land trusts because they have the flexibility of management. You know, you're not asking a question and waiting 5 years for a response. So yeah, the trajectory of land though in our area is, you know, they went from private landowners and then to land trusts and then to park land. And you know, the park has a conservation grazing program, but it's the one good thing about government land is that they have to go through a public process, and if you're like us, that you're very out there in the public and you're very out there in the media, and you have a large amount of the representatives' constituents are buying from you, then you have some leverage. So, you know, if you're doing that direct market and you have customers that are depending on you for their protein source, they're going to speak up if you have a public meeting and you don't like the direction that the government organization is going. So you can participate in that democracy. But again, it's a lot to be able to have to do that and run a working ranch. So we do, I think we just have 2 private landowner leases left. So, yeah.
Question here. Thank you. I've learned so much already this morning. So we're super beginners. We live in a suburb, and in the last year we've gotten a couple of chickens and have been growing our garden and have a little compost. And so as a baby beginner, I know you had suggested that pigs and chickens are a great way to start, and we're kind of starting in that process. Eventually our plan is to buy a piece of land and work towards having that sustainable, like everything you described, your mission statement just totally resonated with me on every level. Do you suggest, are there like things like internships or certification programs, classes, anything? Are there any things like that where we can, aside from observing and learning from interacting with things, that we could learn in that way that would help us with that process?
Yeah, I would say look up holistic management trainings. If you're really going head in on this, take some financial management courses on specifically for agriculture, because things can get really expensive really fast. And you know, I see a lot of people that just go all in, like, oh, I want this lifestyle, I want to have a farm, I want to, you know, be like Joel Salatin and have all this stuff. But you know, we were at Joel Salatin's place just this last spring, and I mean, his equipment is rinky dink. You know, he's not out buying a brand new fencing and brand new water lines all the time. He's utilizing very, you know, ingenious ways to make a lot out of nothing. And his grasses are beautiful, but his infrastructure is not. You know, but you know, that's not what you're looking at. So, you know, don't go and build a beautiful white picket fence and buy a brand new tractor and you know, expect to make a profit on broilers. You know, utilize what you have, utilize free stuff, and start small and then expand, because you can really quickly just have huge overhead and yeah, a big expensive piece of property. So holistic management, take some financial planning and agriculture courses. Sierra Harvest would be the best folks to ask about that. So yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, I'm really curious about the dispatching of your cattle and the processing. Could you describe that?
Yeah, so we, all our animals are USDA inspected and overseen. We use an animal welfare approved slaughtering facility, and the infrastructure is designed based on the Temple Grandin. You know, you move the animals. Animals like to move in a circle. They don't like to move in a straight line. Everything calm, no faster than a walk. They go into a knock box where they're in a small compartment, and then they get a stun gun right at the base of the skull there before the killing slit is made. So you know, we're there, we see it, we're very, you know, we really trust all of the handlers at the facility, you know, with the lives of our animals. And so we know, because it also, you know, if the animal has adrenaline rushing through them during that time, it's going to impact the meat as well. So, yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Okay, one more question. There's one up here.
I think I saw that hand shoot up first. think we have time for 2 more. I think we only have 2 more. All right, Sarah, talk about it.
My question is regarding just the predator. I have some pasture-raised chickens that I move between 3 pastures, and but because of all the wildfires, I have been dealing a lot with the predators, with hawks and owls. I have also guinea hens that are a benefit to our farm, but they've really taken a toll on my chickens. But I also have a love for them. And so I love the owls, I love the hawks, I love the bobcats. I'm not about to kill them. I mean, I've had to do some raccoons and skunks. But again, it's just the out of balance because of the wildfires, I feel, that they're out of balance, but how to deal with it in a humane way.
Yeah, so the nighttime predators, just locking them up in a really solid structure. We have guard dogs, and that are pretty good about keeping predators away from the barnyard. We only raise our small animals sort of close in to where there's a lot of activity. So we're not ranging them on far areas of the ranches. And then daytime predators are tricky. The hawks and the eagles are really tricky. You'll get a Cooper's hawk that'll just come in and wipe you out. So I really don't have the answer to that. We've set up decoys, and that seems to help a little bit. What we found is that it'll be sort of seasonal sometimes. So if you can scare away the hawk that keeps coming back, sometimes they won't come back for a long time. But yeah, the daytime predators are tricky. Yeah, if there's hazing allowed, you can try to haze, rubber bullets or something.
Last one.
Yeah, last one.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Here. My question is, how long were you guys in operation before you became 100% financially sustainable without other jobs?
Yeah, so my husband's always been a full-time cattle rancher, but he went from managing other people's cattle and only having his cattle on the side, sort of just a side income. And then in 2005, we started Markegard Family Grass Fed, and we started just selling shares of the steers and whole lambs. And so that was a way we didn't really have to take on a lot of the inventory management and farmers markets. And then it took about until 2000, let's see, when was my last daughter born? 2010, for me to say, okay, I've got 3 little babies under the age of 5, and I really can't hold down an off-farm job, but we still need to. We are relying on my income. So what can I do to make that work? So it was about 5 years of just doing it on the side for me. And then we diversified and started doing the farmers market and more of those direct sales of the individual, $30 a pound steak. So really maximizing the profit on that animal to make it profitable. So yeah, I would say probably, I would say don't count on quitting your day job right away. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, and I'll be around. Yeah.
give you a little laugh here. All right, the question here is that mother's first child? What do you think? Doniga, thank you so much. You gave such a complete view of what it takes to raise meat sustainably and ethically. Really appreciate it. All right, a little bit more stuff here. You can purchase the video recordings of today's keynote talks. This would be the 3 speakers, the 3 keynotes. If you go down to the registration table, it's $15. We will send you a link and we will do it quick. And if you bought recordings last year and we were kind of slow getting them to you, you get to have this one for free this year because of that. Okay, so don't forget to go down there and tell them you want it. Okay, that's the registration booth. We also have some merchandise for sale. We've got water bottles, 15. We've also got insulated water bottles for 20 and a really nice apron. This is the hit right here. Pull over for 35 and a zip up. I like zip ups myself for 40. And hats and beanies. And there's Malika's lovely butt in a long sleeve t-shirt. Pretty cute. Anyway, so I want to talk for just a minute about Sierra Harvest. You know, here we were, a group of farmers, and we know how to farm, but we didn't like doing the books. And so we're saying to ourselves, we need some help. Who could we get that matches our goals and our dreams to help us out? And it just so happened that Malika has been working with me since the 2nd year organizing this. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but this conference came out of my street in Rough and Ready. Dennis McDaniel started it by asking Joel Salatin to come, which surprised me. You could just call Joel up and he would show up. And then Eric, my next door neighbor, started helping him advertise, and then I got sucked in to do the AV and all that stuff too. And the very next year, Malika showed up and I was so relieved, and she was getting Sierra Harvest going. And so we had a meeting and said, who should be our umbrella? And we picked Sierra Harvest. So even though I work with Sierra Harvest, I came from the farmer side, and it's been a really good match for us because we love what Sierra Harvest does. And if you don't know much about Sierra Harvest, let me tell you that it's run by 2 visionary activists in my personal life that holds the highest esteem. Okay, Amy Retzler and Malika Bishop. So they've been doing just some incredible things, and we'll show you a little bit about it. And I'll start off by showing you a video. Yep. Okay, hold on one second. I got to get the sound up there. Here it is.
My name is Jeannie Mosley, and this is my garden from Sierra Harvest. Before I knew about Sierra Harvest, I was doing all my shopping at the grocery store, sometimes at farmers markets when I could afford it, but with 7 kids, it doesn't make it an easy prospect to provide nutritious, healthy food. My grandfather was old world Italian. I remember going to his garden as a child, green beans as big as your arm. It was like being in a fairy tale. I've always wanted to give that to my children. The adventure, the magic that comes with seeing these things start out so small and become this beautiful thing that not only feeds your family, but feeds your soul. When I first applied with Sierra Harvest, we had 4 posts in the corners and some chicken wire going around it. Sierra Harvest gave us this massive dump truck with 6-7 yards of soil. They brought the fencing. They helped us build all the boxes. Having all these people come together to help my children grow stronger and broaden their horizons as far as what they eat and how they eat it, they've given me a gift. You know, my son Matthew is 12 years old. And like most kids, he wants to listen to music and watch YouTube. He got back from summer camp, and the first thing he did, it wasn't a shower, it wasn't I'm hungry, I want some candy or junk, or can I just lay down? It's I'm gonna run up to the garden real quick, is that okay?
The first thing I did was go to the garden because I wanted to see how much the plants have grown and developed. And I got to cut off like 5 different things, so it was really fun.
With this garden that Sierra Harvest has built for us, we have the ability to make time, to be a family, to come up here and work together.
I planned, I take out dead leaves. I just try to do as much as I can.
I had a magical experience when I was a child. I don't know if I will ever be able to meet the standards that my grandfather set for us, but my kids light up when they come in here. So it may not be the fairy garden of my childhood, but it can be the fairy garden of theirs.
I'm probably gonna teach my own kids when I grow up how to garden and everything. It's just really nice and fun to garden. I'm really excited for next spring, and I really can't wait.
My name is Andrea Mertens, and I am the teacher here at Cottage Hill Elementary Preschool. When I was little, if it was green, we didn't have to eat it, because my dad didn't enjoy anything that was green. And even getting older now and having children of my own, I kind of found myself in the same pattern that I don't often buy fruits and vegetables. When Sierra Harvest let the school know that they were going to be dropping off produce to all of the classrooms, I have to say I felt a little bit of anxiety. Many parents would find out, oh my goodness, Miss Mertens, she doesn't eat fruits and vegetables. If I'm gonna ask my students to try the vegetables, well then I should try them myself. And so I kind of consciously decided that I was just gonna go along with Sierra Harvest as a trial and error. There were gonna be trials, there were gonna be errors of things I did not like, and then there'd also be some positive that would grow from that. In my class, we do everything as a team. And so as a team, we all get our vegetable of the month, and we all take a 1, 2, 3 and give it a bite. We might like it or we might not, and that's okay. There are quite a few vegetables I liked. And there are some items that I will actually say, yeah, I didn't really like that one very much. How about you? You know, to somebody who did. And I'll have other students who will yell out, but I liked it, Miss Mertens, I liked it. Perfect, well you can like it. And today maybe I don't like it, but I'll try it again. I feel like as a mother, I've kind of stepped up a little bit. Now I'm taking the time for my body to have a healthier lifestyle.
It makes me feel pretty good. I'm happy on my mom, and I'm super excited that my mom is doing new things and trying new stuff.
It's made quite a change. My husband's very happy because now he's able to incorporate the vegetables and the fruit into the meals and not have me or my boys kind of, what is that on our plate? Now we're actually okay eating everything on the plate.
My favorite thing I've eaten from Sierra Harvest is the pea shoots. They're really, really good. We always ask my mom, hey, can you go buy some pea shoots while you're at the grocery store? And usually she does sometimes. And right when she comes home, me and my brother just grab a spoon and dig in.
My name is Sandra Higuereta, and this is the Higuereta Family Farms in Browns Valley, California. This is a small farm on about 9 acres of rolling hills of small gardens. When I got my foot in the door with Briar Patch, I was doing 20 bunches of cilantro. And I got a little check, and I'm like, yahoo! I got some money for the cilantro. You know, and then I started realizing I wanted to make a living at this instead of just a yahoo.
My name is David Benson, and I'm the produce manager here at Briar Patch Food Co-op. Briar Patch Food Co-op Produce Department is an all-certified organic produce department. We can't really work with a one-hit wonder where, okay, I've got a huge amount of something and I need you to take it right now, but then I'm not going to have anything next week or tomorrow.
that consistency of supply, that uniformity of quality. Those are aspects of the produce industry that are not as common in sales to restaurants or sales to farmers market.
I felt maybe I can't keep up with this. And at that point, I was almost feeling like I wanted to throw in the towel doing this farming project. I was getting these emails from Sierra Harvest, and there was an email that was offered to apply for a scholarship to go to EcoFarm. I applied and I thought, let's just give it a shot. After I came back from EcoFarm, I get another email that there's a Farm Biz class through Sierra Harvest. And that's what I have in my head now for this upcoming season. So I know exactly what my ability is to produce for the commitment that I have. From there, then they offered another class, and that was to help on becoming a certified organic farmer. Another very daunting issue. I was very scared of the application and a lot of things that I didn't understand about it. And here we are now, a certified organic farmer. If I hadn't had the intervention and guidance from Sierra Harvest, I probably would have thrown in the towel.
In order to build a sustainable food system, we need to not only provide access to markets, we need to give the kind of support that ensures that these farms can get past that sort of make or break first 5 years. And Sierra Harvest has really just stepped into farm incubation, farmer training, farmer education, and support, you know, on a lot of levels.
We have a large commitment for the fall, and Briar Patch now feels confidence because I've taken that final jump and launched into becoming certified organic. I've gone up to the store, and as I'm shopping, or if I'll see somebody buying a bunch of basil, I get so excited. And sometimes I almost want to say, how do you like it?
And the connections and the networking that Sierra Harvest fosters between farmers and community is just crucial. It's basically how we're going to continue to build a sustainable food system here in the Sierra foothills.
David Benson will be speaking in a workshop tomorrow, so you can check him out. I would like now to introduce to you my co-partner in this for a lot of years, who's also the co-director of Sierra Harvest, Malika Bishop. You're gonna have to use your...
Thank you all for coming to the conference this year, despite the blustery weather this weekend. 9th annual. So let's see what I'm supposed to talk about. CalFresh. So Sierra Harvest has a partnership with the Department of Social Services, and we let people know that there is money out there for people who need it to be able to buy healthy fruits and vegetables. So we have about 10,000 people in this county who qualify and are not yet signed up for food stamps or CalFresh benefits, EBT, lots of names for it, but you can get like $600 a month for a family of 4 if you qualify, and you can use that at certified farmers markets, at the co-op, you can use it for starts and seeds. So there's a lot of ways that you can use that CalFresh benefit. You just saw Sandra, who went through our farm business course in the movie there, and that course is going on again right now. Sierra Harvest has 3 main programs. We work with children in about 33 schools across Nevada County, helping them fall in love with fresh fruits and vegetables again. We work with farmers like Sandra, and we work with community members to make sure that everyone has access to healthy, good food. And our farm business class is happening. We have 8 aspiring or just starting out farmers who are going through that course to make their farms and ranches more viable. And then in the spring, we have Farm Crew, where we help you find a job on a farm and then have production skills classes led by some of the most successful farmers in the area, and it's at a different farm each week. So there's a couple events coming up to just let you know about after this one. On February 24th, we're going to be at a film showing of a film called Modified about genetic engineering. That's going to be at the Nevada Theater, 7 p.m. on February 24th. And then we have our annual soup night where you can come for $10 or $12, get soup and farm fresh soup and bread and dancing, and it's a good community event. So thank you all for coming. And are we going to take a break now, Cathay? No.
All right, so here's what the passport looks like. Dig it out of your packet, hopefully. And as you walk down there, as you come out here, it's not the black box door, it's the next door. We'll take you into the main hall. There's water, since this is a high school, there's water all over the place. And visit our bookstore. We have some awesome books. Our butchering book sold out last year, so if you're interested in that, I would go for that right away. And Doniga will be down there signing books. So how do you find the bookstore? When you go into the main hall, look for the stage, and it's on the far side of the stage. I think there's a book sign. Okay, and we will be open Saturday and Sunday, and there will be no vendors open on Saturday and Sunday except Briar Patch, who just told me that if you didn't get in on the deadline for food, if you go talk to them, they will have food for you. But you got to go talk to them. And today they also have sushi. So Donna will be signing till about 11, and we'll see you down there. Thank you.